Hello, everyone. Thanks a lot for joining us today. My name is Hirosha, and then here with me is Helen Dwight from Bizfluency. Welcome, Helen.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for having
So,
me.
welcome to AI Meets Customer Experience. Today, we are going to actually explore how AI is changing customer support, right? But we need to really understand, what the current situation is right now. So, Helen, let's talk about where the customer support tools are falling short today, right? Things like, say, these traditional chatbots that's there, or these self-guided product tools that's there, right? And then you get these screen sharing sessions, right? Demo videos. So all of these things, while they have their place, but what we really feel is that they are not really keeping up with the customer expectations these days, right?
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I think customer or consumer expectations keep rising with every generation of humans. So, and every generation of technology, our expectations get higher and higher. And if we just start with demo videos, it's a very common, pretty common support tool. But I think the biggest issue that certainly I see is lack of interactivity. A video just plays and viewers really can't click around or explore the product at their own pace. It is really one size fits all. It was designed by somebody, not you. And it means that it may not address an individual user's specific common questions. And if your product updates are frequent, then those videos are going to become outdated very quickly and very costly to remake. And then plus, let's face it, watching a pre-recorded demo can be less engaging than perhaps an interactive experience.
Yeah, so a video might give a good overview, right? But the main problem that I see is that it doesn't really adapt to each viewer, right? So if you really think about this traditional chatbot that's there, which is I think the most very common form of AI that you get within most of the products that's there, right? So these are very text-based QA bots, right? That in most of the companies that they just deploy to their products, right? So the main pros of these text-based chatbots, as I see, are they are very cost effective, right? And then they can actually provide with basic support, right? And then they can work 24/7 without even a coffee break, for that matter, right? But these are actually meant for simple FAQs, right? That really free up the human agents for more complex problems, right? And the fact that these are very consistent, and then the fact that these bots are giving the same answer, be it 3 a.m or 3 p.m, right? In theory, these are very scalable solution, right?
Yeah, I'd agree. With all of these things, in theory, yes. But I think when you put it into practice, it's very different because we're all human, emphasis on human, and we're all different. So how often have we, or certainly I, been frustrated by a clunky chatbot? These traditional chatbots run on predefined scripts and they rules. They struggle with complex or nuanced questions, and basically anything outside of the script that somebody else has put together can throw them off. They also lack empathy. They can't read my customers, the customer's tone or emotions at all, so they don't know when I'm shouting at them. And I'm sure many of us have had those moments where we're desperately typing agent or yelling representative at an automated phone system. I do that frequently. And, if the chatbot doesn't understand you, it might just repeat irrelevant options. That's even more annoying, or even abruptly end the conversation, which is really infuriating. So you have to start all over again from scratch. Yeah. And I think, in these situations, and certainly I felt this, some users start to feel like the company's palming them off to a robot or palming them off onto technology, which I think really does impact and hurt not just the brand's image, but the brand's value. And I've been on both sides of that experience. I have to say, there was one time where I actually had a great encounter with a chatbot. Believe it or not, I think it's once. It stands out because I can remember it happening.
Right.
I was ordering a service upgrade from my internet provider, and the automated system handled everything smoothly without any human intervention. I was honestly shocked and pleasantly surprised. The workflow was well thought out and simple. And I remember thinking, wow, that was actually pleasant. But, I think that kind of seamless bot experience that I had, I would say has been the exception in my life so far, not the rule. Far more often I've ended up frustrated, as I've mentioned earlier, that the bot doesn't have the option that I need, or it's giving me responses that, quite frankly, I feel are tone deaf. I mean, I even wrote a letter of complaint once, and the reply was just so off base that I had this hunch it was automated. I called up insisting on talking to a human, and they confirmed actually that my suspicions were correct and the responses were generated by a system.
Right. So, I mean, all these, I think, we are all familiar with these things, right? So now, beyond what we discussed, right, these chatbots and then, videos, right? The other modes of providing support are you get these interactive product tours, right? So then, especially when you sort of onboard into a new product, it asks you sort of click here, click there, that sort of a thing, right? And then you get this never-ending screenshot support sessions that you do as well, right? Either in terms of onboarding or troubleshooting for that matter, right? But all of these things, they have their limitations, right? So if you really think about the self-guided tours, right, they are sort of forced in some sense, right? So then, and most of the time, users sort of end up skipping them altogether, right? And then the other problem is the fact that whenever the features in the product keeps on changing, right? From a product owner standpoint, they need to keep on reconfiguring them, right? So the practicality of really scaling these solutions, that becomes a problem, right? So the main problem what I see is the fact that these solutions, they fail to really engage the users and then adapt to their needs in a very contextual standpoint, right? Because that's what users are really demanding right now, right? So now customers really expect, they need more personalization, they need more interactivity, right? And then faster and much smarter help actually, right? So now the fact of the matter is that the fact that all these, when these AI solutions are being implemented, right, could these end up causing customer dissatisfaction when the real need is for the business to achieve customer satisfaction, right? So now that's what where we are seeing, right, what can we do, right, about this situation? What can we change, right? How can we really adapt AI to customer experience so that it becomes a delightful experience?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And I think the common theme here is that traditional tools often fail to really fully engage users or adapt to their needs. And, what worked a few years ago, like a simple FAQ bot or a generic demo video, often leaves customers underwhelmed or even frustrated. So consumers or customers are naturally expecting more as we get new iterations of technology. The bar gets higher, and they want more personalization, more interactivity, faster, smarter help. And when they don't get that, it is a real big problem for customer satisfaction.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so that's where we stand today, right? So then many enterprises, they have these support tools in place, right? But customers, they always still run to these pain points, right? So what can we do about this?
Good question. I think if you go onto forums like Reddit or other online communities, they are full of stories of customers venting about bad bot interactions, very similar to my own. People frustrated with unhelpful chatbots or automated phone systems that just don't solve the problem. Yeah. So anybody listening, you're not alone if you've had a rough time with a support AI. So yeah, it is a dilemma.
Yeah, so that's a great point, Helen, right? So then there is actually a real dilemma over here, right? So then on one hand, customers often express, right, a dislike and distrust towards when AI is implemented in customer service, right? on the other hand, businesses are really like feeling this pressure, right, that they need to use AI to improve their efficiency, right? So if we are to throw some numbers into this data, into this mix, right, because we need to identify what the data involved here is as well, right? So if you really look at the this Gartner survey that has been published in mid 2024, so about 64% customers, they said that they would prefer their companies not to use AI for customer service, right? So that's almost 2/3 of customers saying, please, let me talk to a human, don't let me deal with a robot, right? Uh, so more than half of customers, 53% actually, right, even they said that they might switch to a competitor if they found that the company was rely on AI for customer service, right? So that's a huge number, right? So over half would actually consider talking they are taking their business elsewhere if they would feel that they are speaking to an AI, right? So this gets even more interesting, Helen, right? So then if you really think about the same study, it has found that 60% of these customers, they were worried that AI would make it harder to reach to a live person, right? So when they actually need one. So 42% of them, they were really concerned that AI might give them the wrong or unhelpful answers as well. So these are very real concerns from the customer side.
Yeah, no, and I'm a big data person. And I think I always look to data to back up some of these, and I'm sure some of those numbers could be even worse now, given that was probably about 9 months or 6 months ago. But I think when you look at that same report, and here's the other side of the coin. You've been talking about the customer expectation, but from a company perspective, 60% of customer service and support leaders say that they are under pressure to adopt AI in their operations. So inside companies, leaders are being told, we need AI, we need automation, we need to cut costs, we need to handle more volume. And it's coming from either the top or, there's pressure coming in from the competition. And you can imagine a CEO or a CFO saying, why can't we have that chatbot handle these basic queries and save us some money? So I think the business needs and the efficiency needs are very real, especially when, I don't even know whether it's every other headline or every headline in tech is about AI. And I think it really does put the pressure on leaders to feel like they need to be doing something with it or about it.
Absolutely. I mean, this leads to a huge tug of war, right? Because so customers are really pumping the brakes on AI right now, right? But businesses are slamming on gas, right? So, and you mentioned, Helen, a lot of customers, they fear adding AI. It means that sort of and it would become an obstacle between the customer and the business, right? Which is not really what we want to happen as well, right? Because when customers need to reach to a human, they should not really be feeling that AI is on their way, right? So we've all been experienced, right? So if you really look at we've all been experiencing this automated loop, right, where it really erodes trust as well, right? The broader concern, which is really interesting, is that some customers, they are actually uneasy on the fact that when AI is sort of broadly implemented, right, could this be displacing human jobs, right? So the fact that them feeling uneasy about it, right, that creates another form of distrust or a layer of complexity, right? So also about 40% of the customers in this survey voiced out this particular concern about that they are concerned about displacing human jobs, right? So whether it's out of empathy for the workers or the fear that fewer humans will degrade service quality, but it's actually on people's minds, right? And you said many worry about the wrong answers from AI, right? So about 42%, they've actually worried that the AI could be spitting out some wrong answers, right? And then not being them not being able to reach to a real human is actually very much within the way.
Yeah, and I mean the data, the trust in the data is very, very big deal. But let's be clear, without customers, there is no business. So I think we absolutely have to address customer needs and concerns first. We need to be customer first. And if AI in customer experience is driving customers away, then that's obviously a big failed strategy, and it's going to hit your revenue, and your shareholders are going to know about it. So, on the other hand, I think ignoring AI entirely might mean falling behind or losing business in another way, or struggling to handle the support volumes. So I think it's very much, we've got to find a solution. I think it really boils down to how do we implement AI, and I think we need to find that right balance. Enough AI to gain efficiency and scale, but not too much in such a way that it alienates customers. And that you want to have customers feeling happy with the service and the products that you're providing, such that they come back and your brand's important to them. So I think we have to ask ourselves, what needs to be true for AI to be successfully introduced and adopted in customer experience? In other words, how can we make AI work for everyone, the business and the customers?
Absolutely right. I mean, it's a great question, right? And then this is where we need to think about. I mean, we need to break this down into two parts, in my opinion, right? Because one is we need to think about what the customer needs are, right? And then at the same time, like what the business needs are as well, right? So from customer side, right, based on what we know, there's a few things like that would actually happen, right? When we think about the broad aspect of AI being implemented into customer experience, right? So first, AI has to really help customers, right? Not to hinder them, right? So that means that when the customer really wants to reach a human, AI should be facilitating that, not really like blocking it, right? And at the same time, like when the AI needs to understand, like if it's a chatbot for an example, right? If the chatbots understood the fact that it cannot really resolve this problem, it should nicely hand over to a human, right? And when it's actually handed over to the human needs to have the full context of like what the customer has really spoken with the AI as well, right? So we need to design AI systems that acknowledge their limits, right? And then know when not to get get in the way of customer and the human, right? And then at the same time, the other matter is like the second is the fact that we need to think about the trust and accuracy, right? Because that is absolute paramount, right? So if the AI is giving wrong answers very frequently, customers are obviously going to lose their faith, right, in the AI, right? And so any AI that we deploy, it needs to have a very higher level of reliability and accuracy, right? And then we need to really narrow down what the scope of the AI is, right? So that we are confident on the fact that it delivers on what it can actually handle, right? Also being transparent, it really helps, right? So then if the AI tells, right, okay, if when AI says that, okay, I don't know exactly what's going on over here, but I'm going to connect you to a human, and human is going to know the exact context of your problem, and then it's going to be seamless, right? So this tackles the concern of actually incorrect answers being coming up, right? Then the other thing is the fact that it should not really lose the human touch, right? So human touch should not be disappeared altogether, right? So people won't real empathy in understanding, right? If especially if the situation is it's a serious issue, right? And while, because I mean now what we've seen is when we are speaking with AI, it's not the fact that it's not really empathetic, right? But if the experience, right, doesn't really feel personal, then you wouldn't really connect with the AI at all, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, it would mean the fact that you need to give it a friendly tone, or use AI for what it's really good at. It speaks to the previous point that I was speaking about as well, right? And then how it can ensure when it's handling complex or very emotional situations, it's actually being routed to a real human, right? So the AI support experience, in my opinion, it should feel like as human as possible, right? In terms of ease and in terms of empathy, right? So if customers feel like the AI really understands their context, right, and then it's really helping them to accomplish their task, right? It's almost like a helpful co-worker, right? And then they're more likely to accept it as well.
Yeah, I think there's got to be recognition of those urgent, complex situations where time is of the essence, and you need to get through to somebody as quickly as possible. Because I think, automation can be a time guzzler if you're having to go through all these different menu options, and people I just want to deal with my issue like now. I don't want to have to go through multiple layers and levels of menus. And that's, I think, what the frustrating thing is. It's not human enough. And you're absolutely right. It's not just the empathy, but it's actually hearing the tone and knowing when enough is enough and when to hand over. Those are all great points on the customer side. And if you look at the business side, we're balancing this out here. Leaders have their own sets of needs and worries when they're adopting AI for customer experience. When you look at integration of processes, any AI solution really needs to fit into your existing processes and systems very smoothly. If you're introducing AI and it requires completely uprooting your CRM or rewriting your entire support workflow, then that may be something that's required, but it's going to be doomed if you don't do that properly. Anything that you do needs to be extremely well scoped, and needs to complement your processes, not throw everything up into disarray and create havoc. And I think need to basically ask, how will AI be incorporated into our environment to meet our business objectives? So there needs to be a business rationale and reason for doing this. Otherwise, there's no real need for uprooting everybody. So it needs to be solving a clear problem, like reducing response time or freeing up staff for more complex cases, or responding more efficiently to certain customer questions. And you need to be able to map that out very clearly. I think the other aspect is people and change management. Whenever you're interrupting integration processes, you can't forget the human team who are working with those systems and with AI. So your support agents and other staff need to be onboarded and really need to bring them along for the ride. And if with anything, if you drop a new tool on them with zero training, zero communication, zero benefits, then you will get, metaphorically, the brakes put on, and you'll get pushback, and you'll get reasons why not, and you'll get poor adoption. But if you can involve people early and often, get their input, remind them of how this is going to help them solve their problems, then more often than not, people will embrace it. And then they will act as advocates for you, which is great. And if they feel that AI is there to help them, then they'll be much more positive. And then I think the third thing, at the end of the day, ties back to the business case and the business objectives for doing this. Any new technology that you're going to put in needs to make business sense and financial sense. So I'm sure most leaders will be looking at what's the total cost of ownership, not just what does it cost to buy, but what are the ongoing costs of maintaining it, training your people. We have to make sure that something's easy to adopt and provide a clear return on investment. If the reason for doing it is to reduce the number of calls, or to be more efficient with the number of calls? Do we have the data to prove that and to back that up? And can we make sure that we're driving towards our business goals? So ideally, an AI solution for customer experience should have a low TCO and a high ROI, i.e., it's not going to incur heavy ongoing expense, but it will deliver very tangible business benefits like, cost savings or customer retention, which ultimately translates into revenue.
Absolutely, Helen. So if we satisfy, right, these customer conditions, right, and easy path to a human accuracy, a human like touch, right, and if we also satisfy the business conditions, fits into their processes, right, and then team is on board, and then the cost is actually justified as well, then I think we really have a winning formula in properly building an AI in customer experience, right? So as you said before as well, the balance is is the absolute key, right? We need to maintain the exact balance, right? But the concern, the fact of the matter is there's no right number, right? There's no right universal number. How much AI is too much AI, right? So that's what I mean, that of course we need to figure out based on your business, how it's feels right with your customers, right? And then how much of support ticket volumes that you may be having, right? And what are your customers' expectations, right? I mean, so all these things really need to be taken into consideration when answering the question, how much AI is too much AI, right? So, if these are properly being handled, right, then I believe we are able to complement everything together and then create a proper winning formula.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the balance of AI and human intervention is going to differ company to company, industry to industry. But I think it's very much about getting the balance right. Not too robotic, or not, sorry, I shouldn't say not too robotic, but not too much of a system, not too much technology, not too inefficient, but just right. And that sounds a little bit like the Goldilocks, but you've got to have, you've got to get the balance right.
Yeah, absolutely. So now the principle, right, of this is actually right. So then we need to think about achieving all of these things, right? Making sure that the formula is really right. And then how do we do this, right? So then now this is actually one of the areas that we are looking at with Marketrix as well, right?
I know that you're looking at that's something that you've been working on directly, I know, and maybe this is a good point to shift gears and talk about the solutions. We've been talking a lot about the issues, but let's talk about a little bit about the fresh approach that you and your team at Marketrix AI are bringing to the market.
Yeah, absolutely, Helen. Right. So then now the area that we are focused on here, because I think we spoke a lot of these problems, right? So now the fundamental problem that we found is the fact that you get these AI bots that they are at a scale, right, in almost all the products, right? But all these products, right? So then all these AI bots that's actually been implemented, they only have just been fed with help docs, right? And the answers, you can't expect anything more than what they understand out of these help docs, right? So that's a fundamental problem that we really see. Yes, some of the bots, we know that they feed some of the user interactions as well, but these are simply just text oriented, right? So that's a reason
why it's garbage in, garbage out, right? You put the data in, you're going to get the same data out. Yeah,
exactly, right? So then now that's where we came into the realization, right? What if your product, if your software really supported itself, right, instead of you having to rely on these traditional AI bots? So say these never-ending screen share sessions, so these guided tours that you need to implement and reconfigure every time, right? So with all these fascinating advancements in agentic software development that's coming as well, right? We are at a place that we are able to now the problem is when you're as software company, when you keep on shipping out new features, right, at a very fast-paced manner, your software support teams, right, they need to make sure that, like, they understand these new features that been rolled out as well, right? So now the approach that we are taking is basically we run agentic simulations on your software, right? It's sort of like, a fancy way of saying how we are mimicking the behavior of your real users, right? And then really building an actual understanding around your software, right, where we use this understanding essentially to provide intelligent and interactive support, right? So specifically speaking, as we call them, right, we provide tell me, show me, and do it for me support, right? So
I like to do it for me.
yeah, so that's this. So now, I mean, what we really eliminated over here is like this, like, uh, these traditional clunky chatbots, which are just text oriented, or like, demo videos that you need to really keep on shooting every time, or these never ending, like, screen share sessions that your support teams need to keep on giving, right? So letting go of the need of all of those things, right, and then we fundamentally make your software really support itself. So that's basically the mission that we are on to, Helen.
Wow. I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, it's almost as though the software is going to, any software that somebody has is going to come with a built-in expert that shows you around. So it's not as though the user is leaving the app or having to guess or go into tutorials, that they're actually being led, if I'm understanding this correctly, they're actually being led around the product, within the product itself.
Yeah.
And I think, and if it's showing you and telling you and doing it for you in some situations, then if I understand that correctly, that addresses a lot of the issues that we've just mentioned. It's interactive by nature, since the user's actually doing steps with guidance. It's personalized because it can respond to what the user is actually trying to do. It can see what it's trying to do and adjust it within that moment.
Yeah.
And it doesn't suffer from this scripted chatbot problem, because it's not just a text Q&A. It's actually more visual, action oriented, and it's as good as the information that's being provided around that product, but you're just being able to zone in to that one particular thing that you need to do now and being shown how to do it. I love it. Sounds great.
Right. So then now, I mean, at the end of the day, we want to give your users the option of, like, how they want to be supported, right? Because there might actually, I mean, we were talking about the problems with just text-based only chatbots, right? But that could just work for some scenarios, right? Because you mentioned, like, regarding with your internet service, the problem that happened, right? And then the text-based chatbot, right, it was able to actually get the job done, right? So if it works, then we don't need to, like, further optimize. So that's
but it's only as good as the person that architected it, I think, in that situation. So you have to have a clear understanding of what the process is that the customer is going to go through.
Exactly, right? So that's a reason why, like, we also want to give the user the option, right? So then that's why, like, we have these three modes that's there, right? So then if the user just, like, prefers text oriented support, tell me this is good enough, right? But if the user wants guidance, right, not really, like, they don't want the task to be completed as per se, right, but rather they want guidance within the product, right? Then that's why, like, what the show me mode is there for, right? Say for an example, like, in a product, you want to know how to generate, like, a particular report, right? And you can't really find that particular feature, right? So the alternative could have been you go watch a YouTube video and then figure it out yourself and then come back and then go through that flow, right? But instead here, right, it provides on-screen visual guidance, helping them to achieve that particular task, right? Then where the do it for me mode comes in is, right, where it actually gets it done for you, right? So say, like, there is a user that doesn't want to be guided, just to be shown how to generate the report, right? But wants actually the report straight away being generated straight away, right?
Yeah.
So that's where, like, the do it for me mode comes in. So ultimately, like, what we are doing is over here is, like, say, making the support experience as human as possible, right? Also, like, understand the contextual standpoint of the user also, right? So
Yeah.
how can we make this experience feel really human and helpful, right? By design, that's basically what we are driving towards to.
No, I mean that sounds fabulous. So it sounds like, from the customer side, sounds absolutely fabulous. But we were talking about balancing, right? Let me challenge you on the business side for a moment and just play devil's advocate. If we were to implement something like this, it sounds on the face of it fairly complex. I mean, what is the process for a business to adopt? Everybody's looking for rapid ROI and rapid TCO these days. So how do you do that?
So, I mean, we've made that process as seamless as possible, right? So now all that we require for us to start to build an understanding, right? As we call this spatial understanding around your product is a demo login to your application, right? So it could be a sandbox login, right? If it's like a freemium product, then of course, we could just sign up as a user, right? Then of course, we need your existing whatever the help docs that's there, right? And then whatever the walkthrough videos that's there, right? So these are the three main things that we would be needing, right, in order for us to start running these agentic simulations, right? So how long would one of these agentic simulations would take, it really depends on the complexity of your software, right? But if it's a very simple software, it could be a couple of hours time, right? But if it's say a very complex software, it could take maybe day or two's time, right? So what it does is basically, right, it, as I mentioned before, it mimics the behavior of your real users, right? And then really start to build this understanding, right? Then your problem becomes, if you're a software company, okay, it's great that you build all this understanding about our software, right? But how are we to really test it out, right, on our product, whether this really works, right? So that's what we've made that process even simpler as well. We have this an extension called Marketrix Task Pilot, right? So which you can actually sort of add on top of your software without even doing a complete integration to it, right? You can add on top of your software. You can see on a high level how well we have actually built an understanding around your product, right? So then after you try it out on a high level, whether this works out, then would come in the integration. And integration is super simple. It's a simple matter of adding a couple of lines of code to your product, right? To enable essentially your users with this tell me, show me, and do it for me support, right? So, and then also if you are really speak about the ROI side, right, we are looking at this in two sensors, right? So one is with regards of onboarding, right? Because if you are if you're spending ton of time, right, with regards of onboarding your customers, maybe doing lengthy sessions in getting multiple teams onboarded to your product, right? So let's say for an example, we have a customer who's spending over 7 months time, right, in the onboarding process, right? So because they are doing large scale enterprise implementations, right? So we are helping them to slash that down drastically, over 50% and even above, right? And then at the same time, the other side is troubleshooting, helping you to reduce your support tickets, right? Because traditionally how your product is handling support is either through this AI bots, which doesn't work much, right? Or when users are screaming, telling that, okay, I want a real human support, right? Then through the screen sharing based support, right, which once again takes quite a long lengthy amount of time, right? So if you are having huge amount of support tickets, how are we helping you to reduce that number drastically as well, right?
And get somebody to a human person as quickly as possible if they need it.
That's the other side, right? So then now the main two, the main mantra that we are helping your business to drive towards is, can we help you to get towards instant onboarding and help you to get towards zero support tickets? So that's the vision, we are really driving forward to.
That's pretty impressive and really exciting to hear how the technology that you have is evolving to meet all of the challenges, both on the business and the customer side. And I really appreciate the focus that you're putting on the human element and the human fallback, because I think that's absolutely critical. Even if the AI doesn't know what to do, it needs to understand that now is the time to transfer and have a seamless handover to a human agent. And I think, going back to, I said there was a data person, but Gartner really emphasized that point, that customers need to know that if the AI cannot solve their problem, that they will get through to a person. And wouldn't it be great if that was completely seamless and they didn't even realize that they were going through to an AI agent, and it's solving the problem. So.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so the fact of the matter is, how can we make this process as seamless as possible, right? And like, as we spoke before also, we should not be building any AI, right, that makes customers feel like, the AI is within their way to getting to a human, right? So that's the sort of thing that you want to happen, right? So that's where the handoff is very important, right? That's why, like, we build handoff in this process as well, right? So like the idea here is, like, we need to make the customer really feel that AI is not here to eliminate the human touch, right, but to really enhance it, right, and then reserve it for what's, like, when it's most needed, right? So that's, like, how we help our customers to get best of both the worlds.
Yeah, so I think, it's fantastic, and I think allaying people's fears, making sure that it's working for the customers, making sure it's seamless for the business. Clearly Marketrix AI is just one example, or is an example, the only example that I'm aware of how to weave AI into a customer experience in a very balanced way, addressing all of the issues that we've spent a lot of time talking about with respect to the needs of not just the customers, but the businesses too. And, I know it's one thing to have it in theory, but it's something else to actually do that in anger and in use. And from what I can gather, you always need some early adopters. So from what I can gather, you've got some interesting enterprise interest and pilot projects that are going on, which does suggest to me that this is an issue that companies are actively looking for solutions for. And it's always great to hear about real world implementations. Always fascinating.
Absolutely, Helen. So, we are in the early stages of our journey, right? But, we are seeing some real traction that we are delivering to businesses, right? So that we really because, say, the pain point that we've understood, it's it's real, right? So then, because this is two-sided, right? So the pain point is there from the customer side, right, and then also from the businesses side, right? So what we really need to look at is how are we balancing these things, right, in providing a seamless solution, right? So we really believe, this approach that we've taken, right? So then this additional data set, right, that we are providing, if we have to fundamentally speak, right, the only additional data set that we bring in to this experience is this simulated data, right? So think of it as your most experienced support agent, right, that constantly and continuously learns about your software, right? Despite how many new features are being implemented, even, right, this continuously builds and maintains an understanding around your software, right? So that's why we believe that this approach that we are taking, it is quite unique, right, and it's providing substantial value with regards of this this intelligent and interactive mode of providing support to users, right? So we are really at at an interesting intersection between AI and then customer experience.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it is, I'm not aware of anybody else doing this, and it's really interesting because you've got something that's going to continue to keep on learning as you keep putting fuel into the fire, so to speak. So let's distill. We've been talking for a while. Fascinating topic. Let's distill everything that we've just been discussing into some key takeaways. So if you just tune into this part of the video, we've covered a lot of ground. We've covered the problems, the challenge, getting the balance right, and the potential solution to getting the balance right. So could you give us 3 takeaways?
Absolutely, right? So if you remember nothing else from this webinar today, right, these are the 3 points that you need to remember. AI in customer experience is possible, but you need to plan it very carefully, right? You need to keep the 2 is that you need to keep the customer experience as human-like as you can. And the third is always you need to have a human backup plan, right? So because you can't still let go of the human in the loop, right? You need to make sure that the human backup plan is also there. So those were the main 3 takeaways that I got, and I'm sure our audience could learn from this as well.
Thank you. No, that's great. And obviously, as you're anyone listening, as you're evaluating solutions, I think it's going to be critical that they meet at least some of these criteria. And I think ultimately, if we look at the future of customer experience, it is likely to be a hybrid of AI and human effort. We need that, but perhaps AI is going to be doing more of if we look at the Pareto, 80% of the rote tasks, but the 20% where you really need more complexity and a person that can help you out there. And certainly with a solution like Marketrix, if you can get the lion's share of all of this work done, then it's a huge benefit to the customer if it's done right, and it's a huge benefit to the business if it's done right. So, I think the companies that will excel are those that figure out that sweet spot. And I think as leaders, we need to be open to the benefits of AI, the scalability, 24/7 responsiveness, potential cost savings. But I think we, as we've said many times, we need to implement it in a way that keeps our customers happy and our teams supported. And it's better for both sides.
Absolutely, right? So the main takeaway is the fact that AI can actually meet customer experience, right? And when it's done right, it really becomes a win-win, right? And then we are able to allow customers to get much faster, smarter service, and then businesses obviously they get efficient and then drive towards growth, right? But this really requires a very thoughtful approach in addressing this.
Yeah, absolutely. Could not agree more.
So thanks a lot for your time here, and thanks a lot everyone for spending this time with us, right? We've covered a lot of points here, right? And I believe everyone got a great idea about how AI is intersecting with customer experience. So until next time, thanks a lot.
No, thank you very much. Thank you all for spending time with us. And if you're an enterprise leader looking to introduce AI into your customer experience, please remember to put your customers' needs right at the center. And don't be afraid to start small and pilot and be part of your organization and see how it goes and learn and iterate. So thank you again. And please feel free to reach out to either of us.
Thank you. Bye.